Hello. Hello, good evening, everyone. Adjust the background audio. There we go. We're just gonna have a chill tune. I need to find more chill tunes. I need to find now that I have a whole chatting segment, I need to actually um find background music different than the one I already have. Just for change of vibes, just for the change. Alright, I'm already staring my own camera image, which is not good. So I'm just gonna pull up my notes and ignore. I don't actually have any notes. I didn't make any notes today, guys. What a noob. No. It's fine. It's fine. I can just ramble. I don't need notes. It helps. Alright. Alright. What are we doing? What are we doing? It is a Tuesday. It is a Tuesday, and first of all, how's your week been? How's your weekend been? For those who were not here on Saturday, I did some shit to my hair, which is why it's lighter now, and that's how it's supposed to be. So I took the dye out of my hair, and tomorrow I'm gonna color it purple. Only I have about 6 or 7 different dyes, and I need to do an experiment on which one is the right color. So that's gonna be fun. But if it all goes badly, I have another box of color remover. So like I can, there's some space there. There's some room there. So that was my plan. Aside from everything else, how's the rest of the week? I had a good Monday, a good Tuesday. I was sad. Like yesterday night. Like a lot, because my friends are going through some shit, and that makes me sad. And I was kind of hit by how I think in the past year and a half, either people I know or like the loved ones of people I know have died of cancer, and that made me like super sad. And I called my partner and I was like, hey, I'm sad. And sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes when you're sad, you just need to tell someone and just kind of feel it and be like, yeah, things kind of suck for a lot of people. And the thing is, I'm feeling all right. Hey Raiden Shred, welcome to the stream. Watching you because it's too warm here to run the PS4 for long. It's warm over there? Alright, it's kind of cool here. Like, it's 22 degrees. And I have a vacation coming up. I have 2 weeks of vacation next week and a week after that. And I kind of wanted to heat up so I can go outside and swim in the ocean. Like, that's one of the things I really want to do. And it needs to be at least 25 to 30 degrees for like that to be in any way comfortable. So I'm just like, now I actually want it to be warm, which is very atypical of me. What is happening? I don't know. So what are we gonna talk about? I was gonna talk about late autism diagnosis. Like, that's a whole thing. Meanwhile, I gotta put the ears on my headset. I got detachable ears that I gotta put on my headset because I have 2 headsets. One is noise canceling and I use that one for work, and this one, my gamer headset. But the noise canceling one was empty, so I had to put this one on. And I don't know about you, but I'm not wearing cat ears to a work meeting. There's a limit. There's a limit, and it's cat ears. Yeah, so I had to take them off, but now we're just gonna put them back on. So about my autism diagnosis, like that's not just gonna be a topic for tonight, folks. That is a whole story of my life, literally. When did it all start? When I was still in the womb. Let's talk about how did the late diagnosis start. So I had many years ago, I think it was about 6 years ago now, I had long treatment in group therapy. And at that point, I was not diagnosed with autism. So I'm gonna skip over all that. And let's go after group therapy. So I thought, wow, I've solved all my problems. They said I'm cured. My personality diagnosis is the personality disorder is gone. Amazing. And then about a year later, I was still constantly running into issues. I was still tired all the time. I was like, I thought things were gonna be better because of all the therapy, and now they're not better. So clearly, there's still something wrong with me. And I'm fucking with these ears, man. This is not good. Practical things and talking, amazing. So yeah, what I thought it was ADD because I had a lot of problems focusing, remembering things, organizing priorities. I was always tired. So I was like, I think I have ADD. I don't know. So I went to my GP and I asked for a referral, and they referred me to a center that could diagnose me, like mental health. There's a lot of those, like organizations that just do all sorts of diagnoses. I don't know what it is in other countries, but that's how it is over here. And so I talked to one person, and then they went to their colleague and they said, I think she's autistic. And I heard about that and I was like, you think I'm autistic just because I did this thing? Like, what I did was I came to their office and I said hi, and then I turned my back towards them and I hung up my coat, and then I put down my bag, and then I sat down, and for them, that's apparently autism. So, but in retrospect, I kind of get it, because I was like very much focused on this practical task. Like, I have to do my code first. Also, hey JD, welcome to the stream. And so I get it, but at the time I was like, you're full of shit. You're just full of it. Look, I got the cat ears. I was like, I don't have autism. You're just seeing things that aren't there. And I was like insisting, no, I want you to test me on ADD. So they did the whole test thing. I had like 2 full days, well, not full days. Like, I think it was about 4 hours, maybe like a whole afternoon or whole morning of tests. And these tests were like all sorts of things. Like, I had to make drawings, and I had to listen or read the story and judge what the social awkwardness was. I had to like do intelligence tests, pattern recognition, stuff with cards, with like the IQ things, like which side is the dice on, and all of that. And there was also a part that was like an interview about me, my childhood, my experiences, and the part about one of my parents coming in for an interview. So I had my mom come in for an interview, and I wasn't there. So she had this whole talk with the psychologist, did a diagnosis, and I was like, all right, fine. It came, this all went. They talked with each other. They had all the information about me. And then they came and were like, all right, here you go. Here's your entire report. So this is like a report about 10 pages long. So me, being the autistic that I am, of course, I read every line and even corrected some spelling errors, as you do. And the real evidence for me was in my mom's interview. Like, of course, there's like some tests that I like was clearly like, I would just say, like, scientifically proven in a way to be autistic because of my test scores. But what really clinched it for me was the things my mom said about what I was like as a little girl. And I was like, I do not remember being like that, but that is so clearly autistic to me. And the reason I know that is because I have so many friends who are autistic. And this keeps happening to people who have a late diagnosis, is they look back and they go, all of my friends have autism. How? Maybe, no, I don't have it. It's just all of them. And then it turns out, no, you are surrounding yourself with people who are like you, who understand you, who communicate in the way that you do, who feel and act in the way that you feel most comfortable with. And maybe you are also on the spectrum. So that's also what happened to me. So, like, my best friend, who's been here, neurodivergers, I'm always pronouncing that weirdly. Neurodivergers. Right, that one. So when I met him in 2006, I already knew, like, he was straight out the gate. He was like, yeah, I'm autistic, I know that. So for me, autism was always very much him because he was like the first person I knew who was like really open about that and really like knew what it was, talked about it a lot, really an advocate for this sort of thing. And he was also kind of the stereotype of autistic person. At the same time, the funny thing is he's not like the typical autistic guy you think. He's very extroverted, he's very social, enthusiastic, but he's got his own issues. I'm not going to get into that too much, but he wasn't like a typical autistic guy, not the kind of guy you see on like TV shows who's like very introverted and socially awkward or rude or I don't know. But yeah, then later on, turns out more and more of my friends who I already knew were also getting their diagnoses. Most of these people are women who later in life figured this out, and the main reason for that is that I think like how would I describe this? Like society really focused on like the kind of classic male autism, and that's also because girls are just kind of socialized to have to conform and have to socialize and have to be friendly and have to be nice. So they're, on one hand, like women are really good at masking their autism. Like you will not, unless you specifically look for the signs, you don't know. But then we also tend to kind of always kind of, how would I describe it? Like kind of fall through. Like we can't quite make it. So we can kind of convince people for 95, 99%. But then there's always this little extra that, you know, gets us in trouble, like at work, in friendships, in relationships. Like we can't quite make it. And it sounds contagious. It's the autism. It's contagious. Kind of. No. But yeah, that keeps happening. So I should have had talking points because I lost my train of thought. Autism. Let's talk about it. All right. So I was talking about kind of the male and the female types, and this is kind of an outdated archetype. You have to think about the way people are socialized, what their kind of personality is, because there's also plenty of men who are autistic in the way we think, like it's female autism, which doesn't exist, by the way. But like men who are, let's say, more introverted, more quiet, more to themselves, much more likely to adapt, maybe also really masking. Hey Game Jubilee, welcome to the stream. I was watching Jubilee's stream earlier, and it's really fun that more women I know are streaming. So let me just give you a quick shout out, because I'm gonna do that. There we go. I have to turn off my own preview, otherwise I end up looking at myself the whole time instead of the camera. Alright, last streaming raft. That was a really relaxing game to watch. Just kind of chill, hanging out in the ocean. Yeah, that was good. Anyway, I'm so good at masking that I managed to fool about a dozen therapists, highly trained and experienced therapists for a couple years, and they were like, "Yeah, you're the perfect patient. Well done." And I was like, "I'm the perfect patient, you guys." It's like, if you give an autistic person very clear structure, very clear expectations, and you just tell them to go do that, they will do that. And they will like, "Yeah, I succeeded, didn't I? I did the whole thing." So yeah, I succeeded at group therapy. I you know, if there was an award for that, I would have gotten it. But no, it didn't really take care of all of my issues. In fact, it kind of encouraged me to adapt too much. So I had to learn adapting to people a lot. So that's still what I'm kind of in the middle of after my diagnoses. And now I'm kind of going all over the place. But yeah, and Raiden makes a good point, because it can happen even without autism. I get what you mean. Yeah. So the thing is that like the symptoms of autism can be very similar to the symptoms of depression or the symptoms of anxiety. And a part of that is because if you grow up autistic in our society, you're gonna develop depression and anxiety, because you're just constantly forced to be someone you're not, to conform to people who have all these unwritten rules that you cannot perceive with your brain, who think and act in ways that your brain does not. So that causes a lot of self-doubt. But people can also just be depressed and anxious for other reasons, right? So it's kind of a thing, like not everyone who has these qualities is autistic, but there are similarities because they're just kind of similar experiences. Only autistic people come from a place of this is just how our brain is. And a lot of people come from a place of, wow, you know, I was traumatized, or this happened, or I grew up around people who are like this or that, who didn't talk about their feelings and I had to learn that. Like, there's all kinds of ways. And that's what the diagnosis is for. So these tests filter out these kind of things. Like, if you are not autistic, you will not get these test scores. So one of the tests that I thought was very funny was called the faux pas test, which had to do with social situations. I mean, when you're autistic, a lot of social situations are situations. That's definitely true. And having to figure out what the weird thing is. Like, did someone say something inappropriate? Did something happen that they weren't like? Was there like? Did they lie, or did they tell an awkward joke, or like a faux pas, like they made a social mistake? And the secret handshake, yeah. Is that what you mean? Called that the secret handshake? Is it like the language that people have? Situation in aisle 5. So true, so true. Yeah, so the score I had is that, to me, every situation, I did it again, every situation was suspicious. Suspicious. I sound like Sean freaking Connery over here, right? I'm gonna take a drink. I forgot a glass. I'm just gonna drink from the bottle. It's water, don't worry, people. Alright, so to me, every situation in that test was suspicious because I didn't know. This is how I operate my life. I'm like, I'm gonna assume I did something awkward or someone else did something awkward, and I have to like think hard about what to do. Hello, kitty. I don't know where the cat is. Here. Yeah, so every time I was like, oh, I think something's weird about this situation. And in the test, they were like, no, some of these situations are perfectly normal. Or there were like in this scenario, like a colleague would say something and I didn't understand why they would say that. And a neurotypical person, the person without autism, would understand, because they were like, oh, well, if you have to be tactful and strategical, you would say something like that to kind of gloss over the weird situation or whatever. Like, I did not get that. So that's a kind of typical test that someone with autism would not pass, so to speak. What is another one I failed at, or failed? Another typical test that we did is they asked me to name as many professions as possible in a minute. And if you ask me to like take my time, take an hour, write down as many professions as you can, I will write down so many, like the entire catalog. Being pushed to like answer this in 1 minute, my brain just went farmer, like it just blanked out. And that apparently is very much typical an autistic brain thing. If there's like sudden pressure to do something and think fast, we can't really think on our feet. We have to calm down, take time, and then kind of sort things out in our brain, and then suddenly it's like, bam, here's all the information. And that's very typical. Yeah, you say something about us, people, someone else says the same thing, or similar, people like them, a secret handshake. Yeah, there's definitely things like that. Like I said, it doesn't just apply to autism. It can also definitely be like a social anxiety thing. And that's what this diagnosis is for. And so let's go back to the part where they interviewed my mom. And she just described this little girl who was so autistic. Like, I had all my things in my room had their place, and I got really upset if someone moved them. I don't remember this happening. I really disliked vacation. I wanted to just stay where I was the whole time. I really preferred being in my room, so it was okay if they grounded me, so I could just stay inside my room. That I remembered. Um, and if I did go on vacation, I wanted to bring things that were like familiar to me, and apparently that's also really like a safe item kind of thing. What there were a couple of other things like that I can't really recall, but it was very clear to me, like, wow, I don't even remember these things that if I read them are so clearly an autistic girl to me. Like also like a huge imagination. And something interesting my mom said is she was like, Danielle is always talking to me in these like entire stories with logic that I can't follow, but I know she understands it. And I was like, that's just so that feels so familiar to me. Like I just have my entire own world. Oh, what's my PlayStation doing? There we go. I have my entire world. Excuse me. Trophy. Yeah, let's put my trophies on screen. There we go. 13 platinum. There we go. So yeah, that's like the story of my late diagnosis. And I remember getting this report and, you know, spelling errors aside, I was like, wow, I guess I'm autistic now. And I'm still trying to kind of understand that, like integrate it with autistic is what I am, and it describes so much of what I went through in life. Like just looking back, I'm just like, whoa, everything makes sense now. Like this complete feeling of being different from the people around me, like the idea that I'm like some kind of alien or something, like that's not something neurotypical people go around feeling a lot. Like they're a different species. Yeah, that's it's a funny thing you said. It's unusual for kids to be neat and orderly. There's a thing that other kids really know that you're autistic long before any adult does. Like kids are so smart and mean and good at picking up all these little social cues that you're missing. So when I was like a young kid, I used to actually be very popular. I was very creative and outspoken, extroverted. I pulled people into my stories. And then when I got older and the social interaction between kids got more complicated, I got left behind because my brain didn't, you know, grow in that direction. I was just interested in more reading and knowing things and not all these subtleties. And that's how very quickly as I got older I got bullied, and because I didn't have like the support that kids nowadays do, I just blamed myself. I was like, I guess it's just me. And now I can look back at this kid who thought that there was everything was wrong with me, and it turns out I'm just autistic, and that's not wrong. That's just different. Yeah, exactly, JD. There's nothing wrong with what or who you are. It's just you're different. And the organization I'm with describes it as just another disk operating system. And I feel like that's very fitting. Like, most of the world runs on Windows, but autistic people are like a Linux. So we're a lot more efficient in many ways, but not very user-friendly, I guess. But we work very well with each other. And if you look at a lot of the things in the world are actually invented or created by autistics. So that's something to think about. I think people underestimate people with autism. There is, I'm just fucking with the laptop. Don't mind me. There we go. It was a little uneven. For example, so recently I've been really into K-pop, and I think at least one of the members of the group I'm a fan of is neurodivergent. I'm not sure if they're autistic or ADHD, but I was reading this article and someone said, well, nobody in K-pop has autism. It's impossible. They're all perfect. I was like, wow, you really don't know what it's like, do you? Because especially in this environment that's like high pressure, high structured, very clear, but very clear expectations. If an autistic person is in there and they're really interested in music and singing they might even put up with the dancing. Like in this kind of environment, which is very different from the normal world where we have a lot of agency, we have to like decide a lot of things by ourselves. They actually have the ideal environment to thrive in, because they don't have to really do all of these other things. Like, they just have to meet those very clear structures and expectations. I was like, I think there's a lot of people in there who might be on the spectrum. I think you're underestimating how many people there actually are who are in these kind of jobs that are very demanding, that are actually on the spectrum. Because of the high structure thing. I think autistic people, I do, and a lot of my friends who are on the spectrum do, actually have a lot of trouble with just living our lives. Like, that is maybe the biggest challenge. I thrived in group therapy because, once again, this is a very closed, safe environment, very clear expectations, very structured. Don't have to worry about it. Everything's just done, you know, I know what to do. But when I'm like in my own life and I have to organize my own space and I have to organize my own apartment and my relationships and friendships, and even a job in a way is easier if I leave the social part aside, because once again in a job I have very clear expectations, so I know what to do, I know what the tasks are, I know when they want them finished, so that is easier. So it's kind of like the more freedom you have, the harder it is. But at the same time, because this is the loopy thing about autism, is if I feel like someone is telling me what to do, I just get so reactionary, and I'm just like, no, I don't want to do it. So it's like, it's very frustrating, because on one hand, I really respond to structure, but I also have a lot of difficulty creating structure, and this is what I see with a lot of autistic people. And it's a struggle, I'll be honest. It's not easy. So there's a lot of things about autism that I really like. You know, this huge imagination, the ability to learn new things really fast, just the way we're very direct, very honest, no bullshit. I am not able to lie very well. There's some board games and card games that involve bluffing, and the only way I can win is if I just act so weird that nobody knows what's going on. Yeah, it's definitely not unheard of in the music industry. I'd wager that a lot of creative people are on the spectrum, or ADD, or depressed, or anxious, because the way to cope with not fitting into society and into the world is music and art. So I think that you'll find a lot of that. So this is a topic I could just keep talking and talking, and I mostly shared Among Us is not a good game for you. No. Well, maybe Among Us is, because it's online and people don't see my face. So I'm very bad at lying to people's faces. People stare at me going like, Danielle, and I'm like, yes? Are you lying? No. So, but at the same time, I don't know, I did play, you know, the werewolves card game. One point I think I was a werewolf and I was a mayor and I was also Cupid, so I had like triple agent roles, and my brain was just like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I think we lost because I had no idea what the tactics were then. But I tend to fool other people by just kind of being weird and hope that throws them off, and that's kind of how I've gotten by in social life amongst normal people too. I wonder if it's possible to create a game to simulate it accurately for non-autistics. That's actually a good question. It's a good idea. I'm trying to think if I know a game that kind of feels like that. I have to think about that. That's a good one. I wonder if there is a game like that. You'd have to like imagine Mass Effect, but none of the menu options make sense, and whatever you say, it's always wrong. Like you click Paragon and you're like, wow, why did I piss everyone off? I was trying to be nice and now nobody likes me. That's kind of what it is like. That's kind of what it's like. And speaking of Mass Effect, let's hop on over to the game because it's game time, guys, folks. I gotta stop that. Turn on his headset. Kitty ears.